one of the interesting things is, and this is maybe jumping far ahead into the conversation because I know Pete had his little order flow here, and I don't want to ruin that. But I don't think Bitcoin's perfect, and I don't think Bitcoin is like an end game currency, because one of the big problems with Bitcoin is the incentive to save and acquire Bitcoin is almost too strong, right? So
I agree.
I look at it like Bitcoin is the perfect savings vehicle. It's the more you save, the more people save, the more positive the price action, the more reinforcing the saving aspect of it is. It's a positive feedback loop for saving money, which is like probably a good thing to have in society. But anything taken too far is bad, right? So one, in the Bitcoin ecosystem, if someone loses their Bitcoin, everyone else makes money off that. And I don't think you want to live in a society where like someone else's financial pain is your financial gain, right? Like I believe in a society where like we can generate financial wealth by like creating beautiful things and creating exciting technologies. And so far we've generated wealth through surplus, right? Where we make enough apples or we make enough cars that the surplus lifts us all up. Yep. Bitcoin in a way creates wealth through starvation, right? There's a shortage of Bitcoin.
Finite,
right? So I think I that's something that's like, it's hard to say like I make money whenever people lose Bitcoin, but that doesn't feel right. That doesn't sit right with me sometimes. And then the other problem is in an economy, you want people to spend. Like the dirty little secret is like credit cards are so good for the economy because people spend money that they can't afford. They do all this crazy shit, but it's stimulus, right? It's permanent incentive to stimulus, and it encourages people to take risks. But with Bitcoin, why on God's earth, if I know for a fact my Bitcoin's going to be worth more in 10 years than it is right now, why would I ever spend it?
Exactly.
Why there's no credit card in a Bitcoin ecosystem. Yeah. So how do you stimulate an economy where all the economic participants are incentivized to just hold and do nothing? So I think that's why.
I think that's where it is right now. Like, I don't necessarily think that's how it's going to be forever. But, like, yeah, right now, like, the reason why Bitcoin works is because people hold it. Like, the holders are the ones that literally keep Bitcoin afloat. If everyone was just selling, like, it would be terrible. But, like, I think, like, I don't know how many years it'll take. But eventually, no, like, I don't think it will be like that. Like I said, I don't know how long that'll take. But I think eventually it won't be like, oh my God, we can only hold it now. I hope it'll get to a point where it'll be such a secure thing and like such a way of the world that like people start using it for like just normal transactions and aren't like hold. Like, I don't know if that's the case. I hope that's what it'll be. I like envision like that's kind of like how it will be. And like even back to like if someone loses their Bitcoin, they lose. We make money, like the holders make money, but I think like hopefully like that won't like happen in the future, and like we'll have ways like to work around that where it won't be like that. But I mean, as of right now, like I guess like it is true, like that is kind of how it is. Like, there's like all this lost Bitcoin just sitting out there, you know, and it'll never be, it's already mined up, like it'll just never be found. It'll just always kind of be floating around.
Yeah. So there's like all the technology with like recovery phrases. I don't know if you've run into those. Like you can right. So you can have a 12-word phrase that generates your private keys. So if you lose your like wallet, your Bitcoin wallet, you can run these through a recovery phrase algorithm and it'll get you your keys back. So I think the rate at which we lose Bitcoin is going to go down, which is an inevitably good thing. But, I also see like I have this weird like spiritual moment where you get into Bitcoin and you're like, what is it? And you're like, you start with like Bitcoin's digital gold, and then you get deeper, and then you're like, oh, Bitcoin's so much more than digital gold. And then I think I went even deeper, and now I'm like, no, wait, it really is just digital gold. Like, my personal stance is like, I want Bitcoin to really just be like a super, super good digital gold, because gold like plays a solid role in the economy. It works as like the non-sovereign proof of settlement, right? But it doesn't like take over. Like, we're not all paying each other with gold. Like, gold can coexist with the US dollar. Gold can coexist with the euro, with all these currencies. So, in my mind, like low-key Bitcoin cannibalizes gold, because I think that's happening.
Oh, I 1000% agree.
And then what happens is, like, now you've created a non-sovereign savings account for people across the world, which has to be a good thing, I think.
It is.
And the other thing is, like, if Bitcoin is like the theoretical perfect hedge against like money printing.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
So this is where, like, and this is where kind of the libertarian in me must come out a little bit, but like, you want freedom of the press, so the government has to monitor their behavior. Depending on where you fall on the side of the argument, an argument for guns is that, like, it keeps the government in check. Well, what if Bitcoin, the presence of Bitcoin, the fact that people can escape the dollar if they need to, makes the government start treating the dollar with more respect, and they start and they start to check their behavior, and it stops this crazy printing that shoots house prices to the moon. It shoots stocks to the moon, and people who weren't in early enough, like people who weren't rich enough to have assets, are just getting screwed.
And it devalues the dollar every second. And but that's what it is. They know it. The Fed could just print as much money as they want. We have unlimited money, but that means there's no value to the dollar. Like if we ever need more money, we just print it. Like that's why Bitcoin is literally the perfect hedge against that, because like we don't want to live in like a place where you could, that's how the system works. Like and Bitcoin is the way of saying, like, I think that's such a great analogy with people that want to say that they want to have their right to bear arms. Like their reasoning behind that should be like to keep the government in check, right? That's how like it was originally.
Or like freedom of press is to keep the government in check. Right to assembly
not have too much power.
Is to keep the government in check, right? Like I don't think it's unpatriotic at all to say, like, I like the fact that Bitcoin exists because it can keep my government a more just government. Because right now the problem is like there's a check on government behavior, right? Theoretically, the press is supposed to stop them from doing crazy stuff. But there's no check on like the Fed and the central bank.
No.
Like they have a blank check to print as much money as they want and buy as many assets as they want, right? So all of a sudden, the people have this thing in their back pocket where the Fed's like, dude, if we take this too far, we lose, right?
Yeah.
So, and then what happens if the Fed decides to be healthy? And like, how do we introduce money but introduce it evenly and fairly? How do we stimulate in a recession but make sure it's distributed more fairly? Like if Bitcoin only stays at the price it is right now, but all of a sudden the government like starts taking care of more people, that sounds like a success to me. Like I would count that a victory.
For Bitcoin, right? Just
for everyone, right?
But I get what you're saying. You're saying like for Bitcoin,
I'm a team player. I'm a Bitcoin boy, but I'm in it for everybody. Like I'm just hoping the best for everybody.
Yeah,
it's kind of
I feel that. I mean, the way I see it is we've quite literally discovered how to mine gold digitally. That's how it works nowadays. I mean, we don't even know where this thing can go, but that's what I love about it. And honestly, you brought the perfect counter argument for Bitcoin that I was going to say. I mean, aside from the fact that Bitcoin is not going to be the one-stop shop, in my opinion, it's not perfect. We know it's not perfect because of the intrinsic my gain is your pain type of thing,
Right.
I don't think there's really anything more to dive deeper into regarding Bitcoin than that. I think also what people need to not misconstrue is the fact that this is also extremely new. So the relative rate of adoption for something like this is always going to be low in the beginning anyway. People need to really not buy into it because it's a fad, but because they understand the value behind it. Otherwise there's no reason to do it, right? Like I think one of the most interesting things I ever read, but that kind of kickstarted my whole investing interests, was when I saw Warren Buffett style value investing. And he basically would say he never invests in a company that he doesn't know anything about. And, I didn't really get that until I started reading a little more and a little more. And it's like, you have to read what the company's doing. How are they making their money? Why are they making their money? Exactly. What does their income statement look like? What does their balance sheet look like? Are they doing stuff that's healthy for the market? Are they doing stuff that is going to destroy their competition? There's so many factors you need to keep into account. But at the end of the day, if you understand what is going on under the hood, then you're set.
This is why I think so many Bitcoin conversations, I hate it when they just start talking about the price.
Yes.
Because I have I talk about Bitcoin a lot, so I'll have random people text me and they'll be like, should I get into Bitcoin? And then, I'll say, like, here's, like, my opinion. It's your own money. Do what you want. Like, whether you buy or sell, like, at least educate yourself. But then they'll say, oh, do you think there's going to be, like, a pullback? And my whole thing is, like, hey, let's say Bitcoin's at, like, I'll just use fake numbers, but let's say Bitcoin's at, like, 10K, and you're like, oh, if it hits 9K, I'll buy. My thing is, like, hey, if you're waiting for Bitcoin to hit, like, 9K to buy, like, that's when you decide to buy, don't buy Bitcoin.
You're not the right guy to buy Bitcoin.
Like, look, this is a crazy speculative. This is all ones and zeros on a screen, right? Like, this is, at the end of the day, as much as I believe in it, this is wild. This is a thought experiment still. So, like, if $1,000, if a 10% price difference is what matters to you in an asset that can swing 60, 75% in a day, don't get involved, right? Like, it's either one of those things where you wake up and you're like, dude, I want to buy some Bitcoin today, or you don't.
Yeah.
I think that's important to what you were saying, Pete. Like, it really is, like, for people out there that are looking to get into Bitcoin, like, as much as I'd love to tell you, like, just get into it because it's sick. Like, no, like, don't. Like, do your homework. Understand, like, why Bitcoin would work. Understand why you believe in it. Understand the value behind it. Because that's huge. Because it is so easy. Like, people are on social media and, like, they post something about Bitcoin or they post something about Doge. Like, Dogecoin, just a meme coin. People create it off the internet. It's like, what? You know what I mean? Like, it's stupid. Like, so don't buy into Bitcoin. Don't buy into any of these, like, without really understanding why. 100%. Because, like, that and then to your point about, like, the price, like, and you were saying, like, look, if it's at 10,000, like, someone texts me, oh, should I wait till it goes to 9,000? I said, that's the wrong person to be buying Bitcoin, like, which is true, like, and at least, like, from my perspective, I always like to think, like, look at, regardless, like, I always tell people when they are buying Bitcoin, like, just make sure, the only thing you have to make sure of is that your dollar cost averaging. So, like, you don't care, like, what price you're buying at. You never should, because, like, that 5 years down the line, a year down the line, 10 years down the line, however long you want to say, but, like, long term, the price that you're buying it at now is going to be greater than it was when you first bought it. And, like, that has remained true from the very first time that I've started buying Bitcoin, and I've lived by that, and it's what's made, my Bitcoin, like, do so well. And I try to tell people that, like, look at when it was at 35,000, like, I'm going to wait till it goes back to, 30,000 or whatever. And, like, like, is it going to go back to 20,000? But the next thing you know, it's at 40,000. And then people are saying the same thing at 40,000. I'm going to wait till it goes back to 35. Like, you're going to keep running into that problem. So, like, it's really important, like, when you are buying, like, make sure your dollar cost averaging it, and, like, just know that, which goes back to, like, believing in the underlying technology, believing in the value of Bitcoin, like, that it's just going to be greater, like, in the future. So it doesn't matter what price you're buying it at now. You got to know that because you trust in it, because you've done your homework, that it's just going to be, higher in the future.
And only ever buy as much as you can lose. Don't if you can't afford to lose the money, just don't buy anything.
Just deplete your credit cards on it. Just all your life savings.
Reverse mortgage your house. You heard it here first.